The Xanthine alien soldiers had ripped Jack's beloved Mia from their home just hours ago. He didn't know what sinister purpose lay behind her abduction, but he knew one thing for certain. He would bring her home or die trying. Jack tightened his grip on the shuttle controls, hurtling through hyperspace in pursuit. Novaterra's spaceport and its chrome spires faded fast to star lines as Jack pushed the shuttle's aged engines beyond safety limits. He had no time for the law or protocol, not with Mia's life on the line. The Xanthine had made a grave mistake taking a human woman. Now they would face the wrath of a human who would stop at nothing to save his family. Jack grabbed the controls as the Iron Comet shuddered out of hyperspace. Ships darted around the crowded skies of Karza Prime. None followed the laws here. This place was chaos. No room for hesitation. He flew low over the jungle. The trees stretched below him like a green sea. Ahead, a clearing held the market's makeshift buildings. Jack set the ship down with a thud at the edge. He scanned the messy chaos. Vendors shoved illegal gadgets and caged creatures at him. Jack pushed through, listening for whispers of Xylox. Time crawled as Jack sweated in the heat. He walked with purpose, eyes alert, steps precise. Then he heard it. A hyperdrive sale. Illegal. Jack's heart pounded. He crept closer, using a canopy for cover. Xylox would sell at the void's edge. A lawless fringe. Night would come before the sale. Jack shed his clothes for dusty local garb to blend in. The void's edge waited where the market's light died. A den of filth. Jack entered, pulse hammering. Dim lamps cast long shadows inside. Armored Xanthine laughed loudly, but Jack only listened. Xylox was coming to sell, to gloat. Hours left. Jack slipped away unnoticed as the sun set the sky ablaze, casting twin shadows. He found a quiet corner and planned as the light faded, heart racing. His love was close. He would save her or die trying. The outskirts were dark as Jack stepped into the void. Blades and a blaster hugged his body out of sight as he moved close to where shady deals went down. His heart pounded with adrenaline. The bar roared with a dozen languages, all meshed in the unlawful. Creatures of every shape cut deals under the flickering lights. Jack watched the entrance as Xylox entered, thugs flanking him. The crime boss oozed arrogance. Then she appeared, Mia, bound but unbroken between two guards. Even from a distance, Jack saw the fight in her eyes. Silent, Jack moved behind a guard, hands twisting until the body went limp. The guard's weapons now belonged to Jack. Quick! Jack fired at a power conduit. Sparks rained as lights died. Confusion took over. Jack moved through the guards, fists and feet dancing. His blaster spoke only when needed with short, sharp shots. Each hit brought him closer to Mia. Mia leapt into action once free. Together they weaved through the chaos. A guard lunged. Jack fired. The guard stumbled back, stunned. Xylox's scream cut through everything, but Jack didn't look back. They darted into the night, running until clear of the outskirts, with only the moons and stars as witnesses. Leaves slapped Jack and Mia as they tore through the jungle. Explosions echoed behind them, mixing with alien roars. Thuds shook the ground. Xylox's vehicles crushing anything in their path. Gasping, Mia spoke steadily. Xylox grabbed me to crack his code, to an old, powerful relic. Jack hurdled a fallen log, mind racing. And? She smiled, triumph in her eyes. I rigged his hyperdrive to snap when we left. Amazement and pride flooded Jack. He grasped her hand tighter. Amazing. No rest. They stumbled into the clearing where the Iron Comet lay hidden. They scrambled aboard, firing engines without delay. The ship roared skyward, leaving Xylox's chaos and ambitions far below. The stars outside spun into streaks as the ship reached orbit. Jack's hands tightened on the controls when the dark enemy ship appeared. Its hull blotted out the stars, massive and threatening. Glowing weapon ports took aim at them. Jack flicked switches. The ship juked right as plasma sizzled past where they just were. Mia's fingers danced, unlocking every bit of speed. One shot, Jack grunted, temples bulging. The enemy guns tracked them, firing again. They rolled, barely dodging a bolt that would have destroyed them. Mia worked the old tech like music. Ready to slingshot? Do it! The moon loomed ahead, promising escape or death. Jack punched it. The ship shook as they raced toward the gravity. They felt the crushing pull, threatening to crush them. They whipped around the moon, faster than they should survive. The screen blurred in streaks, reality bending. They clung to their seats, fighting for breath, the universe just streaks of light. They shot from the moon's shadow, hurled forward as the enemy ship shrank behind. One last blast lit the void, an explosion of rage. Jack met Mia's gaze, the shared adrenaline linking them closer than words could. Jack plotted their course home. Space stretched out, infinite and inviting, as they sailed for Nova Terra. The iron comet roared through space. Jack's hands gripped the controls, guiding their fall. The spaceport came into view. Workers froze, faces turned up toward the ship. Wheels hit tarmac and the engines settled. Crowds ran onto the pad, voices erupting into cheers. Friends pushed through, grinning and shouting. "You did it!" A slap connected with Jack's back. "You crazy bastard!" Mia laughed aloud, eyes bright. Jack just nodded, still stunned. Faces that first showed shock now filled with awe. Word spread fast. They'd done the impossible, escaping Karza. In hours, the story blazed through cities and colonies. Drinks lifted to toast the pair. Screens lit up with the tale, the chase across the stars. "Look at this, Jack." Mia waved a holopad, messages scrolling past. Offers from pilots, sleek new ships, agencies wanting her skills. Jack met her uncertain gaze. "Tempting?" She nodded. "But they might still follow us." They turned down each bid, focused instead on their defenses. Together they fortified the comet hour by hour. Mia reached into the ship's core, wrench in hand. "More," Jack said. She tightened the grip and twisted hard. "That's it." They worked as one, wires, plates, welding, sealing, binding their safety with each bolt. "We're good at this," Mia smiled, wiping her brow. "The best," he agreed. Their hands shaped the comet, transforming it. When free, they plotted escape routes. Mia flicked switches, weapon systems humming alive. "Think this could hold off Xylox?" Pride swelled in Jack's chest. "We'll be ready." After, they lay beside the silent ship. Hands clasped, stars above, ready for whatever came next. Jack's hands hovered over the COM panel as he scanned for threats. The console beeped sharply. Someone was breaking through their encrypted channels. Mia glanced up from the wrench in her hand. "Got something?" Her voice was steady. Jack nodded and pulled the message onto the main screen. The encrypted words took him a moment to decode using Mia's training. The message came from an unknown ally. It revealed chinks in Warlord Xylox's armor, his flagship's weaknesses and mercenaries open to bribes. Mia's eyes flicked over the data. "We can use this. Xylox's men will crack if we hit pressure points." Jack's muscles tightened with resolve. This concrete threat could be met head-on. He transmitted the intel to Nova Terra's Defense Council. The reply was swift. A live feed of the city's protectors erupted into organized chaos. Tactical screens lit up as they launched defenses. "We stirred up a hornet's nest," Mia murmured, watching the preparations. "Yeah, but now they know which way to point their stingers," Jack said. He slid ammo into his blaster, practiced. "Didn't think we'd be back here so soon," Mia said, snapping in a power cell. Jack looked at her with determination. "We won't let Xylox touch our home. Not ever." She nodded sharply, matching his resolve. Together, they planned their role in the coming fight, ready to defend Nova Terra as the first and last line. The comet hummed with energy as night fell over the spaceport. Mia and Jack watched the stars, fingers intertwined. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, resolve as hard as the metal under their feet. Jack stood at the top of the platform, eyes scanning the crowded spaceport. The once quiet hub now buzzed with preparing for a fight. Workers sweated as they lifted heavy gun turrets, slamming them into place with a clank. Drones swarmed overhead, cameras watching everything. People looked up and nodded, hands busy building anti-air guns. The weapons meant more than machinery. They showed Novaterra would not fall without a battle. Mia joined him, staring out at the city. Her fingers gripped the railing, knuckles white. "They've really come together," she said. Jack watched two teens haul ammo to the gunners, arms straining but steps steady. They've got something to fight for now. Below, the cleared main hangar held a messy fleet of ships. Jack and Mia walked among them, talking to volunteers. Wide-eyed civilians hung on every word as Jack mimed maneuvers. A faded metal pilot practiced tight turns in a simulator, mirroring Jack's advice. "Steady now," Jack said. "Let thrusters cool before that spin, or you'll lose control." Mia showed a young man how to roll under fire. Her movements flowed as she spoke reassuringly. The man copied her on the motionless craft's controls. As night fell, communication beams reached out, carrying unity and pleas to nearby planets. Each light streak meant hope, potential allies against the threat. Responding dots on the screen showed a coalition forming. Ships from neighboring systems confirmed approach to stand with Novaterra. Beyond the spaceport, resistance stirred. Jack and Mia's escape stories spread, sparking resolve. In a workshop, steady hands tightened drone bolts. A woman threaded missile wires. No words needed. Determination showed in their eyes. Jack and Mia returned to the platform, standing together as voices filled the air. They surveyed the defenses, volunteers, gathering forces. What they built was more than metal and firepower, but an unbreakable spirit. As dawn broke, streaking the sky with orange and purple, Novaterra prepared. With Jack and Mia leading, they would face anything. Hearts pulsed with the rhythm of a united city. Alarms blared through the silence over Novaterra. Eyes turned up to the dark shapes creeping in, blotting out the stars. Xylox's battered fleet of stolen ships approached, a menacing promise of raiding and piracy. Jack's hands raced over the Iron Comet's controls, firing the engines with a roar. Beside him, Mia stared ahead, jaw set, ready to face the threat. "You good, Mia?" Jack asked, voice steady. "Always," she answered, eyes fixed on the enemy. The comet lifted off, joining the swarm of defenders over the city. Around them other ships formed up, fighters lining up with the comet. Jack scanned the pilots, comrades forged through long days training together. His fleet was ready. Xylox's ships hit the sky, unleashing the first volley. Blaster fire lit up the dusk in violent bursts. Jack banked hard, the comet screaming as it slipped shots. Mia worked the console, wringing every ounce of speed from the engines. They blew past a lumbering raider unable to draw a bead on them. Below, Jack watched his fleet move in precision, dodging and weaving. Their shots found targets, blossoming explosions marking each hit. Jack's hands tightened with pride as enemy ships fell, each a small victory. Crackling comms filled the cockpit. "Cruiser down!" came a shocked cry. "Fighters bugging out! Got 'em running!" cheered another. Mia and Jack danced through the fight, the comet spitting fire on each pass. Their movements were honed by drills, bodies tuned to perfect sync. The battle raged, but beneath ran a current of hope. The city fought back, not just a target, but a community with grit. Each merc ship downed was proof of iron resolve. Xylox's fleet crumbled under relentless human defiance. The darkening sky brightened with flames of victory as the last ships fled the storm. Over the war-torn city, the people exhaled as one, relief and triumph mingling. Mia and Jack floated above it all, guardians over a city that faced fear and prevailed. A look between them sealed the silent pact of comrades forged in battle's fire. They had etched human spirit across the stars. As the comet drifted through the quiet, their hearts beat not just for the city, but for humanity itself. Xylox's scourge of stars broke formation and entered the battle. The city shield flickered as the ship's guns pounded it. People below looked up with sinking hearts at each blast. Jack's eyes darted over the console. "That's our target. Hit the weak flank like we were told," he barked into the comm. Mia's hands moved fast, setting their course. The Iron Comet surged forward, engines screaming. Jack steered sharply, weaving through the chaos. Ships exploded around them as they closed in. Suddenly a buzz filled the air. Mia's console lit with warnings. "Cloaked drones," she shouted tightly. Before Jack could react, hundreds of drones uncloaked and swarmed around the comet. Their lasers sliced through the space between. Mia slammed buttons, deploying countermeasures. "Hang on!" she yelled. Jack gripped the controls, dodging the drones' paths. Drones crashed and burned but kept coming. A direct hit rocked the comet. Alarms blared. Mia read the damage report, her face grim. Thrusters, weapons, life support, all hit. Jack narrowed his focus, hands moving by instinct. "Keep it flying," he commanded steadily. They spun, dodged, and fired desperately. The comet shuddered with each new hit, each breach threatening their survival. But even as systems failed, they pushed on. Mia rerouting power, Jack flying precisely. Their eyes met. They would not let this be the end. The iron comet shook and sputtered as warning lights flashed on the control panels. Jack gripped the wheel tight, knuckles white. Sparks shot from the console, wires poking out like ripped veins. Sweat ran down his face. His eyes stared at the black mass of the enemy flagship ahead. Mia frantically rerouted power at the console, glowing screens lighting her determined glare. "Jack, I'm sending all power to the cannons! Now or never!" Mia said sharply over the blaring alarms. "Make it count!" Jack shot back. He maneuvered the failing comet, fighting the resistance of the dying ship. The huge enemy ship loomed, a black shadow against the stars. The screens blinked red and green, numbers and warnings counting down to their moment of truth. Jack felt a faint hum of energy flow into the guns. The console vibrated under his hands as the cannons charged, building to a deafening whine. "There!" Mia stabbed at a blinking spot on the hologram display. "The vent system. That's their weakness." Jack dove the battered comet down, metal groaning. He skimmed the surface of the huge enemy ship, close enough to see the seams in its hull. They were silent except for the thrum of power. Then, in perfect sync, they attacked. The comet shuddered as it unleashed a barrage, its cannons firing with the remaining energy of the dying ship. Jack didn't look away as the shots exploded against the hull. Fire bloomed in the void, blowing pieces of the hull into space. Across the radio, cheers broke out. Seeing the wounded behemoth fueled the defenders of Nova Terra. "Look at them go!" Mia yelled over the noise, laughing and shouting. On screens across the city, people watched the giant falter. They knew what they had to do. Ships surged forward, swarming the enemy in the comet's wake. Their weapons cut glowing lines through the black sky, following the comet's lead. Jack's chest swelled, watching the fighters rally to defend their home. The skies lit up with blaster fire and the birth of heroes, not with fancy words, but with action and noise. The battered comet held its place at the front, wounded but pushing forward. Jack and Mia stood side by side, architects of the resistance, humanity's hope made real. The sky lit up with crisscrossing lasers. Jack flew the iron comet through the blasts, the hull rattling with each near hit. Nova Terra's fleet shrank as enemy ships exploded around them. Mia's hands raced across the controls. Port thrusters gone, adjusting. The ship lurched but stayed on course. Shouts and orders competed on the comms. A cruiser to the left erupted, the debris peppering the comet's shields. A punch to the gut. Someone's friend gone in a flash. Then the first Allied ships appeared, their hulls marked with neighboring systems' emblems. Reinforcements. Mia's face lightened as the new ships reflected in her eyes. "Backup's here," she said. The Allies charged into the fight, laser cannons blazing disciplined volleys, formations tight. A squadron cut through enemy ships cleanly, precise fire allowing no return shots. With each exploded Merc ship, the Nova Terrans surged with energy. "Push them back!" Jack shouted into the comms. The comet dove and climbed through the battle, engines screaming. More than metal and a crew, they were Nova Terra's beating heart of defiance. Mia's fingers danced on the controls, rerouting power, firing controlled bursts. "We're holding," she said firmly. Explosions birthed new stars as the enemy line cracked under the renewed attack. The Allies sliced through the mercenaries like chaff in the wind. Jack kept the battered, scarred comet steady. Each evasive move, each counterstrike fueled the defenders' ignited hope. "Look," Jack said, pointing to an enemy ship disintegrating under repeated hits. Mia nodded, face focused. That's how it's done. Together, unstoppable. And they were. The tide had turned. The desperate struggle shifted to a pushback. Humanity's resolve burning in metal, fire, and collective strength. Jack watched the comet cut through the vacuum, a vessel of hope in the relentless battle. They would see this through. For their planet. For each other. For humanity. Jack and Mia looked down from their cockpit at the battle below. Smoke rose from the streets. Citizens faced off with the boarding parties. It was people against cold metal invaders. People grabbed whatever was around. A chef swung a kitchen knife. A teen clubbed a merc's helmet. The blow echoed. The invaders poured from their shuttles dressed in black and carrying blasters. But the citizens didn't break. They ducked down alleys and behind corners. They struck back with fury. The city became a maze of war. An old man tossed down a net, tangling invaders. They stumbled and fell. Women threw rotten fruit. The surprise stunned the aliens. Mia's fingers gripped white on the console. She turned to Jack. Look how they fight. Jack nodded, proud but worried. He scanned the defenses. The once peaceful city raged with resistance. Regular people fought like warriors. Mechanics emerged with wrenches and bars. They fell on mercs with swift strikes. One raised a blaster. A cable yanked his arm. A mechanic pulled hard. Jack and Mia saw defenders hold a barricade. Young and old stood firm as invaders crashed forward. A gray-haired woman rolled from a blast. Her elbow cracked a merc's armor. He doubled over. High on a fire escape, a figure dropped heavy objects. Invaders fell with each hit. Keep pushing, Jack said into the comm. You're breaking them. The response was a roar. Shouts and cries affirmed the city's unity. A giant with blaster arms charged in, toppling defenders. The line buckled. Then 3 leapt on the giant, pulling him down. Unbelievable, Mia said. They won't quit. Jack shouted encouragement into the comms. As daylight faded, the citizens rallied. They reclaimed ground. The city was alive and fighting, its people the blood and bone. The invaders lost momentum at the heart of the city. They looked back at shuttles and fallen. The defenders pushed out, faces set. The invaders broke. The city held. It was a maze of fire and defiance, a trap for any who thought humans would yield. Jack smiled at Mia. Let's finish this, for them and for us. Mia nodded, eyes on her console. Let's give them hell. Together, they watched and waited. When ready, they dove into the fray, ready to fight alongside the citizens who proved human spirit was unbreakable. Jack gritted his teeth and cut a path through enemy ships toward the looming Scourge flagship. All units, hit their reactor with everything. Now! Mia's fingers flew across the controls, lining up their shot. Around them, a dozen allied ships turned with them, weapons ready. Coordinates locked. Fire on my mark, an allied commander barked over the comm. Jack glanced at Mia. She gave a tight nod, focused beyond the viewport. They waited, hearts pounding. Mark! Allied ships erupted, a symphony of laser and torpedo fire. The barrage slammed the Scourge, each impact a hammer blow. The comet shuddered as its cannons fired. Jack steadied their course, eyes fixed ahead. Continuous fire, Mia commanded. Don't stop! The flagship's armor buckled under the relentless assault. Explosions burst within, rocking the massive ship's core. A shockwave pulsed out. The Scourge's reactor began to glow, brighter and brighter. She's gonna blow! Mia yelled over the din. Jack allowed himself a flicker of hope at the sight. Brace yourselves! He shouted to the fleet. All around, ships pulled back but kept up their barrage. The reactor detonated, a newborn sun. The shockwave tore through space as the Scourge shattered from within. The comet shuddered violently, alarms blaring. But they held fast amidst the chaos. Cheers erupted over the comms. The decisive blow had turned the predator to prey.
Mia sank back, relief washing over her face. We did it, Jack.
Jack let out a long breath. Yeah, we did. He gazed at the Scourge's lifeless remnants, its threat extinguished. As the enemy retreated, Novaterra's allies trumpeted their victory across the system. Humanity had faced annihilation and emerged victorious, unyielding. In that moment, Jack and Mia knew they had turned the tide. Not with words, but actions that echoed through the stars. The flagship exploded, fire and metal flying into empty space. The blast slammed the merc ships like a sledgehammer. Alarms screamed inside their hulls. Controls jammed across the armada. Chaos erupted in the void. Zelox's ship, heart of their attack, shattered before their eyes. Jagged pieces tumbled into the dark, a broken giant's limbs flung apart. Merc pilots watched, frozen. Then realization hit. Their unbeatable leader was gone. Ships spun and engines flared wildly. Commands became desperate shouts as fear infected the ranks. Some yelled to stand firm, their voices lost in the scramble to flee. Retreat signals flashed rapidly as the once tight fleet scattered. Below on Novaterra, people stared up, holding their breath, hearts pounding. Dust settled and silence grew taut. Then as the ships shrank to dots, the silence snapped. Cheers erupted, starting as a lone shout, swelling to a chorus flooding streets and homes. The ground itself seemed to vibrate with victory. People emerged wide-eyed, repeating what they'd witnessed. They grasped hands, clapped backs, hugged, their faces saying the same thing. We survived. High above, the open sky bore witness to a world reborn in courage. Faces once taut with dread now beamed with triumph. Novaterra's voice surged in relief and joy, echoing far into space. On the Iron Comet, Jack and Mia watched, adding their cheers. Their hands left controls and screens. They clasped shoulders, eyes sharing what words could not. Around them, Allied ships stopped firing, sensors confirming the fleeing enemy. Battle-hard crews paused, some shouting with joy, some stunned. All knew the meaning of this moment. The space over Novaterra, a place of desperation minutes before, was now a canvas of peace. The stars watched, the people celebrated below. Cheers filled the Novaterra streets as people celebrated. Young and old waved torn flags, their hands dirty from the fight. Jack and Mia stood on a platform, looking at the crowd. Screens across space showed them dodging enemy fire, carving a path to win the battle. Reporters shouted questions, telling their brave story. News spread of their victory over the dark enemy sky. Mia's voice cut through the noise, recounting their shots, and the allies that turned the battle. Jack reminded the crowd of their unbroken spirit defending their home. Medals came, but they stood quiet, jaws set, stance steady. Yet tension showed in their silent glances. Cleanup crews found no Xylox remains. The unfinished story of his end hung over them. Night fell as celebrations continued. But Jack and Mia watched the skies, eyes sharp for any enemy movement. Mia spoke low. No body, no sign of him. Jack scanned data, fingers precisely punching codes. We stay ready. Dawn came, but they kept alert. The Battle of Novaterra had ended. But the war might just begin. Novaterra was alive again. The empty streets now buzzed. Shops opened. Kids played. Cooking smells filled the air. But Jack and Mia worked hard, hands dirty, brows sweaty. By day, the market was loud. Vendors shouted deals. Jack stacked sandbags on walls, strengthening barricades. Mia drilled recruits in the field. "Steady your stance," she yelled. "Be ready." People noticed them, nodding respect. Jack fitted a shield panel. It clicked tight. "Good work," someone said. Jack just nodded, dripping sweat. At night, the sky was vast, full of silent stars. Jack and Mia lay outside the walls, staring up. "Remember when we met?" Jack asked. "The spaceport? The chaos?" Mia laughed, stirring the leaves. "You stole that ship. I thought you were insane." She took his hand, fingers locking. He looked at her. Their shared gaze spoke of the battles, close calls, their tireless drive. A shooting star blazed overhead. They watched its journey, remembering their own. "Xylox might still be out there," Mia said firmly. "We need to stay ready." Jack squeezed her hand. We will. We beat back the storm before. We'll do it again if we have to. Silence settled between them, deep and calm. Their chests rose and fell together, two warriors resting but alert. Nova Terra slept. Jack and Mia kept watch, the steady heartbeat of a city after the storm. The room quiet except for the engine hum outside. Jack's fingers moved fast on the panel, decoding the signal. Mia stood at his shoulder, eyes locked on flickering data streams. Got it, Jack said. The message was short, sender unknown, but the words hit hard. Xylox lived. The screen showed last known coordinates of the warlord. A battered ship limping away into dark. Mia's lips a thin line, absorbing. He's out there, she said, voice flat but eyes sharp. Jack slammed a fist on the metal table, a rare burst of anger. A fugitive, still after us. He stood straight, jaw tight. Mia turned, strode to the weapons with purpose, grabbed two blasters, checked the cells, offered one to Jack. Let's go hunting. They suited up in silence. Movements practiced and precise. Clasps clicked, fabric stretched, the sound methodical, audio backdrop to their resolve. They stepped into the cockpit, taking seats. Mia started the engines, a growl eager to fly. Jack plotted course, fingers tapping. Coordinates locked, potential prey paths in blue. Turned to Mia. Ends now. Mia nodded, eyes ahead, not getting away this time. They launched without fanfare. The comet cut through the sky. Stars witness to past victories watched departure, silent. As the comet pursued, Jack and Mia's minds mirrored the ship's path. Direct, unyielding, aimed like a dart. No talk of what if. They'd weathered storms before. This the final gust to withstand. The chase stretched hours, sensors sweeping space for trace of Xylox's ship. Then, a blip on radar. Whisper of cloaked engine exhaust. Mia leaned in, tapped to enhance signal. That's him. Voice steady as drumbeat. Jack steered towards it, engines rumbling with determination. The void their arena, the pursuit their sole focus. Each radar check, each course adjustment, brought them closer. Xylox's wounded ship came into view, hobbled glide almost pitiful. The once proud flagship now silent, fleeing ghosts. Mia's fingers poised on weapons. Prepare to engage. Jack nodded, entirely focused on the chase. No words, just the primal hunt. The comet closed in, silent as the vacuum. Single-minded hunters, prey ahead. Relentless. Ship looming close, Mia fired. Energy bolts reaching across space with precision, not to destroy, but disable. They needed answers, resolution, and would take it on their terms. Enemy ship shuddered, lights flickering as conduits blew. It drifted. Fight gone. Jack brought them alongside, clamps locking the two together. They stood, blasters ready as airlock cycled, stepped through threshold, prepared to face what came next. Xylox, once dread, now just a fugitive in justice's sights. Jack and Mia would end his vendetta in the cold reaches of space. The cockpit blinked its familiar rhythm as Jack set their course. His fingers danced across the nav panel, entering coordinates to traverse from the fringe of known space to its core. The iron comet sliced silently through the void, its engines humming steadily amidst the sea of stars. Glacius glistened, caverns glittering beneath its frozen surface. Jack and Mia suited up against the cold and dropped into the icy depths. They squeezed down narrow tunnels, breaths clouding their helmet lights. Water droplets pattered a steady beat on their visors, guiding them deeper. The icy walls whispered of unseen movements ahead. Mia pointed to vanishing footprints in the frozen wall. He was here, Jack said, knowing. They scraped samples as they pressed on. Ahead, beams illuminated a cavern filled with crystal. Beautiful, but they only had eyes for the hunt. An abandoned datapad lay by a rock. Jack powered it on. A map flickered, showing a trajectory into the unknown. Another piece clicked into place. The chase tightened. Stratospherea's cities floated on clouds, suspended in oceans of air. Jack and Mia stepped onto sky bridges linking the structures, winds humming as engines kept it all aloft. They blended into a market crowd, goods trading hands silently, A trader passed them a chip, murmuring, "For the hunters." The chip showed a scarred face, Celox, with coordinates into uncharted space. Jack's grip tightened on the chip. "We've got him now." Their journey traced a trail of whispers, docking at ports and hideouts, listening more than speaking. Aliens watched and noted their passage, from hulking to ethereal. At a fueling station round a dying star, dock workers approached, eyes assessing. "You're chasing Xylox," their leader stated. "We are," Jack said evenly. It clapped a three-fingered hand to its chest. "We help. He's a blate." Jack nodded. Mia smiled thinly. More allies in the unspoken pact. In the Comet's small lived-in common room, Mia turned a scholar's cube in deft fingers. Screens showed celestial charts, but their focus stayed on the hunt. "They respect us," Mia said, cube clicking. Jack looked up from the table. "We're earning allies. Not by force, by doing what's right." Their resolve shone brighter than any beacon, inspiring rather than demanding. At every stop, their mission resonated. Word spread, uniting disparate voices in a chorus of support. From frigid worlds to sky cities, Jack and Mia pursued their hunt while sowing seeds of unity that might one day bind the galaxies. The comet flew on steadily, ever closer to the next clue, the next ally. Resolute despite the void, certain of their course. The ship shuddered out of hyperspace, the engines quieting. An asteroid appeared, cratered and empty-looking. Inside, tunnels carved like bones. Jack eased them in, the hull scraping dust. Mia's fingers tightened on her blaster, ready. "Let's do this," she said. They moved through dim corridors, steel creaking under their steps. Intel painted the picture. They knew the warlord's methods. Now they acted, anticipating his traps. A glance shared their plan. Jack led, Mia followed, footsteps whispering promise. The door slid open. Xylox waited. The trap sprung. Jack dove and rolled from sizzling plasma. Mia fired back, shots precise. They pressed on, Jack focused, Mia's aim true. Xylox bellowed orders, his voice lost in the noise. He grabbed for a weapon, slick and deadly. Jack kicked it away with a twist. The warlord swung wrecking ball fists. Jack and Mia danced clear with coordinated grace. They darted in, jabbing and punching. Xylox staggered and crashed down heavy. They bound his hands, defiance dying on his face, dragging him along, feet scraping metal. "Should have known," Xylox growled. "Human tenacity, human cunning." Mia shoved him onward, eyes icy. "It's called humanity," she said. Onlookers watched as they brought Xylox to the ship. Voices whispered and flew. Engines fired, the ship lifting free of the rock. Authorities awaited, justice turning its great wheel. They handed over the prisoner for a future of chains. As the ship turned away, Jack and Mia stood together, gazing into blackness. Stars glittered, cold and uncaring. A glance shared everything. The fight done, but their bond stronger. They'd walked the void and emerged victorious. The future stretched unknown before them. Together they would cut their path. Humanity's strength shone not in armor's gleam or metal's shine, but in resilient spirit and united hearts. Together, Jack and Mia knew humanity could face any darkness the universe dared offer.